The St. Joseph Cemetery, known locally as the Barney Street Cemetery, is located at the corner of Barney and Mount Vernon Streets in downtown Newport, Rhode Island. The cemetery is located in a very historic area, as can be seen in this photo. On the immediate left, looking down Barney Street, is the Newport Historical Society's headquarters, with the 1706 Sabbatarian Meeting House enclosed. The 1763 Touro Synagogue is adjacent, which is the nation's oldest. Looking further down Barney Street, one can see the Colony House, one of the first of Rhode Island's state houses. It was built in 1739. At the farthest end of Washington Square stands the Brick Market, built in 1762. Within several blocks stands the 1673 White Horse Tavern, the 1669 Friends Meeting House, and the 1679 Wanton Lyman House. Finally, just 2 blocks up Touro Street is the Touro Cemetery. The Museum of Newport Irish History installed this plaque in 2000. It describes the history of the site beginning with the Trevitt Schoolhouse in 1809. This stylized Celtic cross was erected about 1928, probably in commemoration of the centennial of the parish. We have been unable to pinpoint the exact date. Irish immigration into Newport County had begun to increase in the early 1800s, with commercial openings of the coal mines in nearby Portsmouth. A large number of miners were brought in from West Cork Allies, a site of mining for many years in Ireland. Also, with the beginning of construction for Fort Adams in Newport in 1824, hundreds of Irish masons, bricklayers, and laborers were hired and worked for the next 35 years. Bishop Fenwick of Boston sent a priest to the area in 1827, who reported back that he had provided service to 150 Irish at Fort Adams. The bishop then sent Father Woodley to Newport to prepare for a parish. In 1828, Father Woodley purchased a small wooden schoolhouse built in 1809 by Eleazar Trevitt to be used as the first church. The museum had this model of the church, circa 1830, constructed from a drawing set by architect Richard Long from the measurements of the building on 19 Sherman Street, assumed to be the original 1809 schoolhouse/1828 church. We'll discuss the Sherman Street building later in this presentation. The little 50 by 100 plot of land on the Barney Street, together with the schoolhouse, is identified in the 1828 deed. The building looked similar to this sketch by Newport architect Richard Long from measurements of a nearby building believed to be the original structure. This will be discussed later. On July 12, 1829, the Newport Mercury ran a notice that divine service will be performed at the Roman Catholic Chapel at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. When the bishop arrived in October, he was rather appalled at the size and condition. In his diaries, as recorded by Dr. Garman of Salve Regina University, the building was too small and mean, and directed Father Woodley to purchase more land adjacent so that a new, larger building could be constructed. Subsequently, the 2 adjacent lots were purchased in 1829 and 1830, as shown in these deeds. The original schoolhouse was built in 1809. Trevitt advertised for carpenters to build the structure, for which they would have free education for their children. The advertisement was placed in the Rhode Island Republican on March 22, 1809. Just 1 month later, the advertisement he placed in the Newport Mercury on April 27th declared the school open. One must assume that the building was plain and modest in its appearance. Later descriptions indicated that it had a bell tower. Shortly after the church was dedicated, parishioners began using the land adjacent to establish a cemetery, as shown here in 3 photos of extant gravestones: the 1828 Callahan stone, the 1834 O'Reilly stone, and the 1835 Hanley stone. Note that the stones all are engraved with either the county or parish in Ireland where they are from. Other gravestones are shown here: the 1837 James Fitzgerald stone, the 1839 Mark Sullivan stone, and the 1853 Bridget O'Sullivan stone. In 1830, Father Woodley was transferred, and Father Corey, shown here, was appointed as pastor. He began planning for a new church. Work began on the new church in 1833, but it was not completed until 1837, when the bishop again returned to dedicate the new Gothic-style wooden structure. While no sketch or photograph exists, it must have been a building similar to this. Descriptions in the Newport Mercury at the time and later descriptions indicated that it was built to hold about 400 people. Bishop Fenwick arrived on August 19, 1837, to dedicate the new church to St. Joseph. According to his diary, as recorded by Dr. James Garman, he was pleased with the new structure. It was used for the next 25 years, until the dedication of a new church on Spring Street, Newport, that was dedicated to St. Mary, Our Lady of the Isle in 1852. The 1850 Drips map shows the location of the new structure on the corner of Barney Street and Mount Vernon Street. The old wooden church was torn down in 1864, as indicated here in a notice appearing in the Newport Mercury on February 27, 1864. The 1870 Beers map now shows that Barney and Mount Vernon Street corner is a cemetery. No church is shown. The fine historic St. Mary's Church is shown, first in this aerial view taken about 1930, and more recent views outside and in. It must be noted that the original parish, founded in 1828, had now changed its name to St. Mary's, which does cause some confusion when a new St. Joseph's Parish was founded in 1885. These are the more recent views of St. Mary's Parish, both interior and exterior scenes. Finally, no picture of St. Mary's would be complete without a photo of the wedding of Jacqueline Beauvais and John F. Kennedy in 1952. The earliest photo of the cemetery is the 1890 shot taken looking up Barney Street. This picture, courteous of the Newport Historical Society, shows a fence that stood around the site for many years. The second picture was taken in 2008. The fence had fallen and the site was totally overgrown when the snapshot was taken, just prior to the 1962 cleanup by the diocese. The picture of the site reproduced from the book titled History of the Catholic Church. Restoration and preservation of the cemetery. In 1998, the Museum of Newport Irish History received permission from the Diocese of Providence, owner of the cemetery, to proceed with restoration, and a lease was issued. Work began in June. Also, Salve Regina University students, under the direction of Dr. James Garman, worked on a dig to determine if any artifacts or remains of the old schoolhouse could be found. In fact, no evidence of the old schoolhouse or church was uncovered. No doubt, the original schoolhouse was laid up on simple stonework with no basement. All of the gravestones found were taken up and cleaned. Those stones that were in poor condition were repaired and or cemented together or held together with specially designed stainless steel braces. These images show the dig and other work that went on for the restoration and preservation of the old cemetery. Note the stylized Celtic cross just behind the Newport Artillery, restored by John Howard Benson on the historic John Stevens shop on Thank Street.
My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, a common Christian concern has brought us together to bless this cemetery once again, thanks to the efforts of the Museum of Newport Irish History and so many others. Lord, you made your people a pilgrim church to be welcomed by you into their eternal home. May this place, prepared and renovated in a sure hope of the resurrection, never cease to remind us of the life that we are to share in Christ, who will transform our earthly bodies to be like his own in glory. For he is Lord forever and ever. Amen. And may this Celtic cross remind us not only of those who are buried here, but may it also be a constant reminder of all those who in any way made this renovation possible.
Through the years, there have been many stories and anecdotes regarding the fate of the original Trevitt Schoolhouse/church building. In late 1999, architect Richard Long, while working on number 19 Sherman Street for a developer, realized that the interior was actually an early 19th century structure and could very possibly be the original Trevitt Schoolhouse. He had advised the developer of this fact, and then the museum was contacted with an offer to sell the building for its historical value. An investigation followed with the Newport Historical Society, the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission, and a historical architect Myron Statue. The team concluded that the building was indeed an early 19th century structure. Further investigation by Long and Dr. Garman's paper concluded that there was a high likelihood that the building was the old Trevitt Schoolhouse, having been moved to Sherman Street in the late 1830s. Garman's research indicated that a Sherman Bell had purchased the 19 Sherman property in 1825, and further review of many real estate transactions show many houses and other structures being moved around the area. It appears that the building was moved from Barney to Sherman Street, where it now coexists as a condo. The museum has also interviewed a number of old-time residents who confirmed that the stories of the building being moved are historically accurate. One individual, Mrs. Arnold, who in fact lived in the house, then a single family, in the 1920s, recalls her mother telling her that the high ceilings in the house were because it was originally a church. Her mother later converted the house into apartments. However, no positive evidence, such as a bill of sale or deed or city transfer paper, has ever been found. As a result, the ad hoc committee formed to investigate the matter could not positively conclude that the structure was the Trevitt building. Since that was the case, funds could not be raised to dismantle and restore the remaining parts. It is now encased in the 19 Sherman Street condo. Daily news articles relating to the possibility of the historic beginnings of the 19 Sherman Street structure. These images show investigators examining the building. The framing found in the building was then drawn by architect Richard Long, who was part of the investigation. In 1885, the name St. Joseph was again used to form a new parish. The group originally met under the old Unitarian Church on Mill Street, and in March of that year they purchased the 1835 Zion Episcopal Church on Toro Street. Soon, larger facilities were needed, and land was purchased in 1898 on the corner of Broadway and Mann Avenue. The foundation for the new St. Joseph was laid in August 1911. The information and pictures shown here are from the St. Joseph Church booklets. The consecration of St. Joseph's Church, 1922, and the 100th anniversary booklet, 1985, and museum photo files.